Get it, Caroline. Hey, I believe we might be live, and I think you might be muted.
I am muted, of course. Why wouldn't I be? Hi, everybody. We're so excited. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a really incredible workshop, and we have one of our Space Plus 5 astronauts joining us, Trent Tresch. So, if you guys are just meeting me for the first time, I'm Caroline Garrity, the Director of Astronaut Engagement for Space Plus. Space Plus is the first Web3 aerospace project by Uplift Aerospace. And Space Plus is using artificial reality, virtual reality, NFTs, cryptocurrency, and blockchain technology to increase access and diversity in space. To achieve this, we have a range of projects that are focused around building the social, digital, and physical infrastructure to support commercial activities and cultural events between Earth and space. Yes, that's right, everybody. And today we have Trent Tresch joining us to kick off our series of member-led community workshops and events. So Trent is a founder of the University of Arizona's Center for Human Space Exploration, who spends his days flight testing hardware, building spacesuits, and training in spacecraft rescue. Welcome, Trent. We're so excited to have you here today. And he's here to share more about his Center for Human Space Exploration. And the goal for this is to expand and connect experimental opportunities in the space community. So tell us about yourself.
Hi, everybody. Well, thanks for having me, Caroline and Space Plus crew. Happy to be here, of course, representing the Space Plus 5 and the rest of our community. Originally I wanted to come on board and speak to everybody about the Center for Human Space Exploration here at the University of Arizona. However, as we started to talk and really think about just other opportunities and things we want to provide for our community, I wanted to expand a little bit. I know probably many of you come to us with years of space experience, but also a lot of you maybe don't. And if we truly want to have a long-term human presence in space, we need to get as many people involved as possible. We're not just going to need pilots and medical doctors. We're going to need retail managers and welders and everybody in between. And so hopefully today I can just share a little bit about some other opportunities that are out there. And if you've heard about these ones before, just bear with us. But then if you do have other recommendations to our community, I believe right now, Caroline, we're on the Discord as well, right? So people can maybe drop some links and things in the Discord, and anything that we talk about today, we can also share with everybody later. So we've got just a little bit of a presentation. Sorry, coming from an academic background here with the PowerPoint, and some videos hopefully as well that will work for us. But was there anything else from you, Caroline, or shall we jump in?
Yes, so we would love to hear how you first got involved in the space community and then where the idea for Center for Human Space Exploration came from.
Oh, geez. Okay. Yeah. So I wasn't ready for an interview, but I guess here we go, eh? So everybody, my background, it kind of shocks people sometimes because I don't come from traditional aerospace or traditional engineering or even a STEM field. When I was younger, I, like many, 17, 18-year-olds, didn't know what the heck I wanted to do with myself. But I knew that I liked exploration, I liked human discovery. And so I ended up getting an undergraduate degree in outdoor adventure recreation. And yes, you did hear that right, adventure recreation. So my classes were things like rock climbing, river guiding, caving, and so on, just getting to travel to far-reaching parts of the world. And I would say there I was first exposed to like environmental science and the ability to enable scientists in the field through the skill sets that I gained. And so I told myself at that point in time, just stick with one major, don't switch to environmental science, don't switch to engineering, even though I had a passion for those things. It's like, okay, I'm just going to stop here, focus on the one thing, because you can always go back to school, right? Get good enough grades to be able to go back to grad school someday in the future. And over the years, I was lucky enough to work on a handful of different projects all around the globe. I would say my secret to traveling there is definitely work somewhere where you can just get a job, right? If you can get a job in Australia, then you can go to Australia and work, and they pay for everything. It's great. So that's what I did for some time, transitioned into aerospace because of a lot of work that I did with scuba diving systems, so different life support systems, very, very basic systems that led me to just gain an interest in engineering more complex systems like rebreathers, getting interested in pressure vessels for human occupancy, so looking at deep sea exploration and submersibles and one atmosphere suits. And then, oh, hey, there's a lot of crossover between deep sea exploration as well as space exploration, spacecraft life support, and so on. So, it's been about a decade now. It was a lot of volunteer work, a lot of education, and one project leading to another. I found my way to the University of Arizona here in Tucson. And this is what I want to tell you about. I mean, today with the Center for Human Space Exploration, it actually came out of a previous idea. A friend called me and said, "Hey, Trent, do you want to come down and help me build a Mars Research Center, fully hermetically sealed laboratory?" And Caroline, let me tell you, when you have a friend that calls and asks you if you want to do that, the answer is yes. You say yes. I want to build a Mars Research Habitat. So today, hopefully, I'll get to share a little bit of those photos and videos with you all as well. But that was really the beginning of what I'm hoping is, a continued life of adventure and exploration and education and enabling all of our futures towards the stars.
That is absolutely brilliant, and I love that you started with the fact that you came from a non-traditional and unexpected background. I think a lot of our community members can share in that common history, common background as well, and we look forward to heading to space together. And of course, without further ado, we'd love to learn more of what you guys are doing there.
Yes, let's do it. Let's jump in. So I'm going to go ahead and do my best to share my screen here. View full screen mode. Oh, we don't want that. And all right, here we are. I'm sharing the screen, little robot. Thank you, robot, in the background there for helping us out. Can everybody see that okay? Or Caroline, can you?
Yeah, that looks great.
So, as mentioned, going back to story time, a friend of mine, Kai Statz, an incredible human being, also works in the aerospace field, as you can imagine, called me and said, "Hey, do you want to come down and work on a Mars research habitat?" And this was at the Biosphere too, so you may have heard me harp a little bit about the Biosphere, or we had Emily and Josh out, and hopefully we'll get the additional Space Plus 5 out. And please, everybody within our community, NFT holders coming out to the Biosphere as well. It's an incredible place to get to share a little bit of history as well as some excitement for the future of human space exploration, long-term habitation, and even sustainability and climatology, climate sciences here on planet Earth. But I got to live actually at the Biosphere for about a year. And during that time, there were a lot of conversations with different scientists and program managers and things about, how are we able to incorporate more space opportunities into the university? And that's how the Center for Human Space Exploration was born, through those conversations, as any good center starts. But before I get too much into it, I feel like I really have to just do a little bit of a backtrack here to some of the James Webb photos that we had today. These photos were absolutely phenomenal. I don't know about you all, but yeah, my feeds are blowing up with these photos that are shown. I believe this is the Carina Nebula here that we're looking at, and these photos that we see, they're actually taken with the infrared cameras on James Webb. So there's a near infrared and a mid infrared camera, and believe it or not, another plug for U of A here. Two of those PIs actually for the near infrared and the mid infrared are research scientists and professors here at the university. So Marcia and George Reiki, forgive me on their last name, but they're actually a married couple, believe it or not, and they're into this field of infrared astronomy. It's pretty incredible. And, this I feel just goes to kind of show and set the tone for where we're at here in Arizona. And sometimes geographically places, they bring people to them for certain reasons. And when it comes to aerospace, the reason why Arizona is so special is because we have an incredible weather, right? We have amazing flyable days for aircraft or spacecraft. And with university backings, the U of A in Tucson and ASU in Phoenix are some of the top funded NASA schools with numerous NASA projects currently and usually underway. I think fiscal year like 2020, the U of A had over like $120 million invested into just the space sciences. And so here we get a lot of people who are interested in space, and we have all of these really fantastic projects that are working here. So we of course know James Webb, the Giant Magellan Telescope, OSIRIS-REx. I'm not sure, probably many of you have heard about OSIRIS-REx, which landed on an asteroid Bennu and grabbed some samples and is now on its way back to Earth. So a lot of incredible science that's happening here at the U of A. And we started to, scratch our brains and think, okay, well, if we have all of these people here, well, these are the types of people that are probably going to end up working on telescopes in orbit or any other types of satellites for servicing, or, people that are working here on space projects. Well, there are welders here. I keep coming back to that as an example, but there are welders here that work constantly on space projects. So if you want to learn how to weld in space, Arizona is probably the place to come and do that. So again, lots of projects, but if you also notice, a lot of them are very much so focused on either looking out into the universe or looking back at Earth. And so we wanted to incorporate more of that human aspect into the opportunities here, because again, if we want to have a long-term presence, we're going to need people in space, and we're going to need people trained in space. So for those of you who are new, welcome. Sometimes when you get into outer space, or even just the idea of working in space, or what are the jobs of the future that are going to be in space, and how can I prepare myself now? I would say that those are great questions to ask yourself, because I truly believe within the next decade, especially as we go back to the moon with Artemis, other countries are going to the moon, all of these other space projects and private companies. There are not only, you heard me say, welders or scientists or pilots and so on, but the companies here that are terrestrial based, they still need HR managers and accountants and investors and people that know those fields as well. So think broad spectrum here. If the jobs that are all out there right now are just this small little bit of visible light that we see on the light spectrum, just expand that vision a little bit and just start to get those wheels turning about maybe what's possible. And while I go through some of these opportunities for everybody joining us today, I would just say if you could keep that at the forefront of your mind, because a lot of the jobs that we're going to see tomorrow haven't even been created yet. And people used to tell me that when I was younger, and I didn't fully understand what they meant. And I think space is actually a perfect example of what that looks like. When I got my undergrad degree in outdoor adventure recreation, I didn't think I would be sitting here right now in front of you as a director of the Human Space Exploration Center, right? So where to start? Free resources. Free resources are always the best place to start, if you ask me, because you don't need any money. Granted, you do need an internet connection and a computer. And so, as a global society, we're doing our best to get those things to people in a useful, non-detrimental way. But MIT OpenCourseWare, many of you have, again, probably heard of MIT before, but here are just a few examples of some of these free courses they offer: space propulsion, space systems engineering, space systems architecture and design, and the list goes on. So we will drop a lot of these links later in the Discord if we can. Carolyn, you can help me out with that. But check it out. A lot of these courses are free to do. Sometimes if you do have to pay for books, there might be some nominal fees, but that's completely up to you how involved you want to be. Expanding on open courseware, we do have Coursera and edX. So again, a bunch of examples of space courses that you have at your disposal. And forgive me for coming at you all from a traditional, kind of academic background here, but I believe that it is true that you do need some level of academic engagement to learn these things. Not saying that you have to go through traditional pathways, especially in this new space era, but just put yourself in the seat of a hiring manager, somebody that's maybe looking over a resume. They want to see, who is this person? What experience do they have? Are they passionate about this? Are they dedicated? I firmly believe that skills can be taught, but attitude cannot, right? So if you have the right attitude, and if you're showing that you're committed to something, maybe this is going out to our younger viewers right now. you can take these free courses and even show, on your resume, MIT OpenCourseware Space Dynamics, right? Or thermodynamics, or whatever physics, mathematics classes and courses and things that you need. Now, I don't have a slide on this, but a resource that a lot of people don't know about, again, just as we're sharing resources here today, is, oh gosh, what is it called? It's called University of the People. And I know that sounds a little iffy, but if you're near a computer, I would say Google University of the People. Again, this is probably going to those who are maybe high school or undergrad age, but you can actually get almost a completely free, fully accredited degree here in the US in things like computer science through University for the People. And I believe that that is an incredible opportunity for everyone out there that has internet access to gain experience. And again, that degree that can really get your foot in the door to do things like software engineering, or maybe go get a NASA internship just based off of working in one of these science disciplines, right, in computer science. So I could only imagine if I was younger and if I was coming from a place of, or not able to have financial means, which is kind of where I was when I was in school. I mean, I had to pay for school myself, and I didn't know $10,000 was a lot, right, to go to school for a year. And I didn't know how I was ever going to pay that back. So I was always searching for ways to do things kind of on the lower end of the spectrum as far as cost. And so, yeah, University of the People, Coursera, edX, MIT OpenCourseware, I think these are all incredible places to start, especially for the young people on the call. For those of you who are maybe seasoned vets, NASA technical servers, I cannot tell you how many hours I spend on the NASA technical server looking up certain documents. Just everything that I want to know is I can usually find on the technical server, or thinking a little bit outside of the box here, you find a paper on the technical server. I can talk about Dr. James Knox here. Paper written by James Knox. Well, guess what? James Knox has a NASA email address. Those email addresses are public. Well, if I have any more questions, guess who I'm going to about life support systems? I'm going to send an email over to James. I'll be like, hey, my name's Trent. I'm interested in learning more about this. And can we have a chat sometime? Can we jump on a Skype or a Zoom in this case? And can you help me learn more? Can you point me to other resources? So thinking outside of the box in different ways, I think that is going to be beneficial to us as a community, especially here at Space Plus, as we try to think about how we can be more impactful to each other, the community, and human space exploration, or just space exploration as a whole. If we all sit back and take a back seat and let other people lead, I think we need more leaders in space. And I think all of us can be leaders in space. And so when you start to develop this mindset and just realize that people are accessible to reach out to and talk to and learn from, I think that cultivates not only a lifetime opportunity to grow as a person, but then, if you truly like space exploration, let's work together and let's make this stuff happen. So free opportunities, free resources. Of course, we cannot forget Space Plus NFT holders and Web3 based astronaut training programs here. I think that the team is doing an incredible job. If you are holders, awesome. If you're not a holder yet, you totally need to come into our community and help us build the future. Outside of Space Plus, I wanted to share two really exciting projects, or at least what I think are exciting projects that are still free projects. A lot of my experience before I started to get paid to do work in space was volunteer. So I would go to my work, or I would go to my job every day, right? 9 to 5, do what I had to do, make sure I was taking care of myself and my relationships and things in life, living a healthy lifestyle as best as I could. But then outside of that, I was looking for volunteer opportunities. NASA has volunteer opportunities. Different private space companies have volunteer opportunities. The Civil Air Patrol is a great place to volunteer and get involved in youth education around aerospace, and they're more focused on flight. But if you want to bring it into the space world, they're open to that because that's part of their vision as well. So Project Perlin here is this upper right-hand corner photo of a glider, a project-specific glider flown over the Andes down in South America that has reached incredible altitudes, world-breaking altitudes, like over 100,000 feet altitudes. Completely volunteer project. Shoot them an email. go help them out. You don't have any aerospace experience, go get some free experience, right? Learn a little bit. Go and see what you can do for Project Perlin. Do they need accountants? Do they need HR people? Do they just need somebody to help manage help manage office stuff, or do more technical engineering? Like, just get involved. Another one here, Copenhagen suborbitals, you may have heard of. I'm actually going to share a video, if I can, for Copenhagen suborbitals, because what they are doing is super, super rad. I am going to take this down here. And then Caroline, how do I stop share? And we don't want this one either, guys. Sorry for that, just a moment. I'm going to put in a new video. Copenhagen suborbitals, load video.
Get ready, Spacebot. Do your thing.
Okay, so this is Copenhagen suborbitals, and I think the Spacebot.
2, 1.
Check this out. This is awesome.
We're the world's only manned amateur space program and have flown 5 rockets since 2011. We built them in our workshop in Copenhagen, Denmark, and launched them from our ship on the Baltic Sea. Someday, one of us will climb in our home-built capsule on the Speaker rocket and thunder up over the Kármán line at 100 kilometers where space begins. Then the capsule will free fall straight back to Earth and land by parachute in the sea. It's all crowdfunded and non-profit, and has only come this far because people all over the world donate money that pay the materials, tools and rent. Therefore, our do-it-yourself spacecraft are built as simple and cheap as possible, avoiding exotic materials and complex production methods. We are around 60 unpaid volunteers, and we all do this in our spare time, working endless, long nights and weekends. Why? Because it's a crazy and incredible idea. Because for amateurs, space is the final frontier, and we are hell-bent to prove that you can get there by sheer willpower and by thinking differently. Or, as Sir Edmund Hillary simply replied when he was asked why he wanted to climb Mount Everest: because it's there.
All right, there we go. I mean, how cool is that?
That's so cool.
So, I start to think about, okay, well, with our community here, I mean, they're a group of 60 volunteers, right? So who do we have on this call? Who do we have, that we're rubbing elbows with? And how can we make these types of things happen? I remember in the Discord there being some ideas about, doing remote control rovers or getting access to telescopes. I mean, I truly believe that all of those things are possible, but I also don't want us to limit ourselves on some of those. Again, look at these groups of people that are building aircraft that are flying to near space altitudes, that they're doing it in whether they're somebody's garage or they're at a facility that's being rented, or again, Copenhagen, they have recreational rocket scientists that are coming out, and they have an incredible track record of flights. So what is possible? I'll leave that question here for everybody, but let me see if I can pull up my presentation again. Would you get in that rocket, Caroline?
So when he said that one day they're going to get into it, I was like, oh, I hope it's a little
small
more.
Capsule.
Yeah.
If I was to guess, that they're still a couple years away, but as far as their rocket technology goes, they're there. And if you notice, they're launching from kind of a platform ship out in the ocean, because international waters is a lot easier to get clearance in for rocket flights than it is on land, and especially in Europe. All right, view. Okay.
They're setting up. That's the plan. Go out to Europe. Let's go out to the Baltic Sea.
Right. Okay. Technical server we spoke about. Now I wanted to transition. Oh, actually, while we're let's keep going. So I want to transition now from these free opportunities that we're looking at. Again, call out to the community here and the other Space Plus 5. Like, let's drop as much space knowledge and links as we can for everybody, because we want to make sure that you gain the opportunities that you're looking for, and sometimes you don't find these opportunities unless you know somebody that knows about these opportunities. But I want to jump now into kind of paid opportunities. So we went kind of the volunteer and free realm, and now what is out there if you have a little bit of cash saved up, or if you're looking to save up some cash, or you have a birthday party coming up and you're planning on getting a few birthday cards from grandma or something. What can you do with that money? How can you invest in yourself and invest in the future of space? A lot of people will start with space camp, of course. Down in Huntsville, Alabama. Space camp is absolutely amazing. I personally have never been, but if you look at this photo in the top left-hand corner, you have some people having some fun with the gravity offset rigs, it looks like. And I know Sydney can probably talk more about space camp at another time, maybe even Mike or other members of the Space Plus 5, but I've only heard incredible things about space camp. And they have different tiers as well. So if you're a parent and you have kids at home and you want to send them to space camp, there are different tiers of experiences available, right? So different ages and different prices. But to give you an idea, because I want to talk about brass tacks as well, space camp I believe is around $1,500, and that with the caveat that may be just like some of the adult programs. So you can go to Huntsville, you can get exposure to the gravity offset rigs, different space missions, different space technologies, and a lot of simulators, I believe, as well. So you can think about those opportunities. Those of you I know on this call, a handful of possum knots are there. Go possum, all right. So possum, maybe you've heard this before, not just the animal, but Project Possum is, I would say, another step up that a lot of people have taken in these last years, just because it's probably one of the most accessible spaceflight training and research opportunities out there. So through Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University down at Daytona Beach, Florida, you can go and do really studying for specific research projects. So POSSUM actually stands for Polar Suborbital Science in the Upper Mesosphere. And it's led by a team of people headed by Dr. Jason Remuller. And again, they're doing incredible work, and they're focused on what's called noctilucent cloud tomography. So they're looking at taking images of clouds and helping us better understand these very specific clouds at the highest points of our atmosphere. And so when you're a possum knot, you get selected. They do this 2 times a year. It's about $5,000 to get into the program. You go down to Florida, you get to fly zero gravity, you get to fly high Gs as well. So both of those are in a decathlon, an extra 300L, which are fixed wing aircraft for 2 people. You get to interface with spacesuits. So on the right here, you have a photo of Dr. Shauna Pendia. Shauna has been involved with possum for a really long time. This is on a kind of extra research flight that was done during possum, where they were doing the 0G parabolas. But the final frontier, I believe this is the 3G pressure suit. So this is an intravehicular suit. This is for inside of a space vehicle made by a company here in the US. And for the initial programs, you get to work with those suits, you get to go inside of those suits, and you get to do some simulations. Outside of that first program, learning again about taking videos of noctilucent clouds and the science behind noctilucent clouds, and getting a little bit of experience in bioastronautics and suit operations, you can upgrade. So you can kind of take extra courses with possum. They have like space geology courses. They have spacecraft egress courses, other research initiatives. So a lot of these things you can get into, but the price starts to tick up fairly quickly, right? So as you can see down in the left-hand corner, possum can range anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 a person. So keep that in mind. Survival systems. In the middle here, the top middle, you see what's called the MET. I forget what the MET stands for. There's all these acronyms in aerospace, and sometimes they're just hard to keep track of. But the MET is basically a big dunk chamber that the military uses for different aircraft, usually helicopters, underwater training, helicopter underwater emergency training, or something along those lines. But you can use these types of trainers to simulate other things, right? So commercial aircraft, spacecraft. Doing a program like this where you go out to Connecticut, I believe it is located, and these places are across the country because they usually service the different branches of the military. But you can go out and you can take these survival courses, do the Hewitt, the Met drops into the water, and learn how to escape these systems effectively for, if you do want to become an astronaut someday. And granted, every single one of the spaceflight providers is going to give their specific training to their craft, as they are required to do so by US law. Having these types of experiences under your belt will better prepare you for emergency situations, right? As well as taking that first step into the astronaut program. See, education to me, it always stops the cycle of needing experience to get the job, but needing the job to get experience, right? Education is a way that we kind of intersect in, and we either pay or through some of those free resources get experience for free, right? And then you can move forward from there and build upon yourself and your trajectory, whatever that is. Moving down our list, Advancing X. I just heard about this organization a little bit ago. They do online platform learning, $200 a month for access to certain programs. Again, spacecraft egress, interfacing with different research projects, how to do that. Private company, check them out. I believe that's advancingx.com. NASTAR. If you type in NASTAR into Google, you're probably not going to get what we're looking for initially. I would say type in NASTAR space. And NASTAR is a training facility that they have things like centrifuges. They have that same Met kind of dunker as well, I believe. They do different astronautic trainings, whether they're for spaceflight participants or for crews. And those programs, again, are fairly expensive, so $3,000 to $15,000. I know this is probably like drinking from a fire hose with a lot of stuff that I'm throwing at you guys, but we only have so long. So within a lot of these projects, you'll find also hyperbaric chambers. So maybe you've heard of a chamber flight before, and what that means is that you go into an altitude chamber and you wear an oxygen mask and you're surrounded with medical professionals, and they take that altitude chamber, they pump the air out of that chamber to make your body physiologically think that it's at a higher altitude than it actually is. And when you take that oxygen mask off, your body has some funny responses to those altitudes, and you get to learn how your body reacts to these responses and what to do in these emergency scenarios. And that would be applicable to like a cabin depressurization, whether that's an airplane or a spacecraft. So NASTAR, Survival Systems, Possum, a lot of those organizations do that as well. Waypoint to Space is probably the creme de la creme of a lot of these opportunities, as I believe they work directly with NASA in Houston. $50,000 a person to go do some of these astronaut trainings, EVA type trainings, planetary space missions and so on with the real professionals. It's a lot of money. I don't think I'll be spending that anytime soon. But last one down there, AATC, Analog Astronaut Training Center. The Analog Astronaut Training Center is it's based out of Poland, run by Matt H. and Agata. They're incredible people. Again, a lot of these similar experiences you'll probably see as you look at all of the opportunities out there. They're centered probably around 10 similar things, and that's going to be like scuba diving, the Hewitt, the Met, survival egress training, maybe pressure suit operations if they're lucky enough to have them, different flight trajectories, so whether that's high G or low G, negative G, hypoxia training. So again, a lot of the similarities. But now we get to the specifics of the Center for Human Space Exploration. So how do we give these opportunities to people? Well, first things first, we tell them about it, right? And that's what I wanted to do here today, was to share all of these opportunities out here. Again, this is another visual for what we have here at the University of Arizona in this James Webb Telescope inspired graphic. But you see that it's sequestered from just about everything else in here, because a lot of these other opportunities are through different universities. So with the Center for Human Space Exploration, which we call CHASE, under CHASE, we want to bring in all of these opportunities, and we want to point people like everyone here in the direction of, well, what's your goal? Do you want to be a mission specialist? Do you want to be a pilot? Do you want to be that welder in space? Well, let's help you find the resources that you need to get you into that right place, and so you can continue that journey. But however, under that same program as a pillar, we want to create a sandbox. We want to create a sandbox of fun. And this is one of my favorite, probably playful space photos by Michael Whalen. This is a drawing that he did of his daughter. I think she's like 4 years old. And every time I see this, I think, yes, this is what we want. We want to be playing in space. And here at Chase, we want to provide the opportunities for people to come together and play. And one of those ways that we can play effectively, and again, falling under the education umbrella, is give you all the resources necessary to get to the future and get to actually see this with your own eyes of your kids playing on the moon. So I am also here going to jump in to a video of SAM. So one video of SAM is super interesting. SAM stands for the space analog for the moon and Mars. And this is that Mars habitat that my colleague called me down to work on in Arizona. So this was a photo of SAM at the beginning. SAM is an adjacent building to the biosphere to itself, but it was really the test module for the biosphere. And so we've repurposed it, and it's still under construction currently, but we're providing a lot of interesting chances for everybody to come in and use this facility, propose research, propose art, and actually fulfill those research and art goals. So I'm gonna jump in here again, see if we can do another video. Monkey Man behind the scenes. Just one moment. Okay. Local video. Thank you all for your patience. How are things going, Caroline? You good? You need a drink of water?
No, I'm doing fine. My eyes are itchy. That's why I had to go off camera for a little bit.
Okay, here we go.
But I'm literally not blinking at your presentation. It's just incredible.
Let's oh, sorry, hold on. Yes, I agree. It's super awesome. And hopefully, so this video, everybody, will give you an idea of the construction process. And a lot of people that have been working on this project also don't have experience in space, or they haven't previously. So it opens here with a spacesuit test that we did, and you kind of just get to see it evolve over time. So let's press play.
Please touch the plane.
Can we make it big?
We're now at about 600 parts per million.
Take our zeolites, which is our adsorbent, and add it into the scrubber system, into the sorbent bed. All right. So that was Sam. And maybe I'll give you all just a little bit more context about what that project actually is. And I'm going to share my screen again. But that I love that video. That video was put together by my colleague Kai, and I think he's done an absolute great job at kind of showing like these first few phases of construction of this new space habitat. So really what you saw here was that original test module. And so over the process of a year and a half, we've taken this test module and we've renovated it and we've added in new life support systems. The goal of this habitat, again, focusing on research and art. And as far as research pillars go, we want to better understand things like, for long-term habitation, how does the microbiology of a completely closed system. So with this system, when it's closed, everything that you saw when it was closed is sealed from the outside world, and it has a slight positive pressure that actually pushes air out, so we're not ever getting any outside atmosphere inside. And that allows us to do some pretty unique things, such as test the internal atmosphere. How does that change over time, right? Test the internal microbiome. How does that change over time? And those two things, the microbiology as well as the life support, are some of our core research objectives. However, people can propose, everybody here could actually propose research or art objectives to come and stay within this test module at the crew quarters and so on for extended periods of time. So not sure if many of you are aware out there of these things called analogs. Analogs in the space world they're used quite a bit. And how the analogy I would use for an analog is it's like practice, right? So when you're a soccer player and you go to practice, you're practicing for the real thing, which are your games, right? Now, astronauts, when they go out to space, so they need to do an EVA or a spacewalk on the International Space Station for every 10 hours, underwater that they're training in simulated microgravity on the mock-up of the International Space Station at JSC. They'll do 1 hour of the real thing, right? So their analog is underwater, and then the real thing, their game, is in space. So likewise, SAM here is going to be one of the highest fidelities research analogs in the world. So people will be able to pitch research and art ideas, come in, stay for extended periods of time, and practice to really help us understand how the heck do we develop operations for long-term habitation, or what about the technologies that we need? People like to think that we know everything, or the people at NASA are going to solve all of these problems, but there are a lot of other institutions and individuals that are needed in order to solve problems that we know we have. So we're working with the flight surgeons here at the U of A for space, and as well as they're partnered with SpaceX on some things to develop the future of surgery in space. Right? How do you do surgery in zero gravity? How do you contain, the body or fluids and all these different things? There are these questions. NASA even has, if you look in the technical servers, the human research program and what are the defined gaps. So if you search NASA human research gaps, you're going to come up with a laundry list of things that NASA doesn't have answers to, that they're actively working on, or they're hoping that somebody else is going to actively work on them, right? So there's a plan moving forward, but there's no reason why you can't step in and try and solve some of those problems and use the sandbox like Sam here to do that. So after living in the biosphere for a year, working on Sam, at the end of last summer, we actually did a fully closed sealed experiment. So you saw something kind of rise in that photo. Maybe you didn't know what you were looking at. It looked like it was fully enclosed and something was kind of moving up through the screen. That was actually the variable volume chamber, also known as the lung. So this glass structure, when it's fully sealed, imagine when air comes through and different air pressures or temperatures heat up the inside, that air expands and it has to go somewhere. If it didn't have an expanding chamber to move into, it would blow out those windows. Even just a variance of 1 psi across all of this glass, that's thousands of pounds across that glass that could blow it out. And so I never even thought about that for space, right? Well, if you have a system, you have to have somewhere for air to go if it expands and contracts. Granted, on the moon and Mars and space, we're not going to have a full glass structure like this, right? But here, as far as this analog goes and this sandbox, we we're preserving this historical architecture, right? We're getting to use something that has really cool historical value, but then also think about the future, because those systems in the future will work fairly similar as far as pressure and so on goes. So there's a lot of information about this, but I'm going to try and skim over it. Maybe sometime we can talk more specifically about SAM, but it is its own presentation in itself. So talking about more opportunities. Neutral buoyancy. Neutral buoyancy is something that is really exciting for a lot of people, including myself. If you're a scuba diver, you probably resonate with that. Top left-hand corner is that NASA JSC. I was talking about analogs. What that means is practice. This is that JSC, so NASA astronauts actually testing in an analog, right? Testing in the neutral buoyancy facility. And you have some safety divers behind them that you can see. A lot of the time, those safety divers are, again, there for safety. They're ballasting the astronauts. They're filming, they're doing a bunch of different things to make sure the astronauts have what they need to experience that simulated zero gravity on their missions. Those jobs are available. If you're a scuba diver, you can go apply to work at JSC and go work in the pool with astronauts like this. Lower left-hand corner is actually at the University of Maryland pool. So Maryland has their own neutral buoyancy facility. Over to the right here is a program that I got to work on and develop in Clovis, California, funded by Fresno State and NASA. To give high school students opportunities to do neutral buoyancy type trainings, right? So similar to the astronauts. And years ago, when I talk about my experience and when I talk about the tens of years that volunteer work that has led me to where I am today, this was one of those early projects. And when I was still into scuba diving, I asked myself, why is nobody teaching students like we teach NASA astronauts? Because if I was a kid, I mean, Caroline, I don't know about you, but I would love to get trained as an astronaut as a high school student. I would have been over the moon.
So I personally don't know how to swim. I would like to
yes,
learn how to swim.
One thing at a time.
Diving.
Yeah. So we'll have to work on that. But so for those of you who can swim, there are pool opportunities like this. So yes, you could go. You right now could go to NASA and you could rent portions of the neutral buoyancy facility to train in. It's probably going to cost you about $50,000 for the day. So keep that in mind. But I just want you to know that there are these programs and things that are available out there. And sadly, the Dive into Space program in Clovis, California is no longer. But this got my internal dialogue going about, okay, well, if this is a fairly low fidelity option for high school students, how do we take these missions inside of this space habitat that we have underwater that they're in, and how do we make it something that can provide training experiences for adults, right? For those of us who want to transition into space. And so I got into pressure suit operations, development testing, underwater operations, because if we can take this experience and we can add in a level of complexity like spacesuits underwater, as NASA has done at UMD, then we have something that can actually engage people and help people into the future develop those skills. So again, that's what we're doing. So here at Chase, outside of training opportunities, which I can get to very specifically here shortly, we're offering open source equipment. So Apollo 11 lunar hammers, spacesuit components like wrist rings. Here are examples of some of those we've built under NASA SBIRs. Hard upper torso, the ability to 3D print these things. These are all going to be available to you as community members to use and build upon, develop, and so on. Now, when we talk about space training, Caroline just told me about time here. I know we're running short, but our Space Plus 5 are going to be coming out, and we're going to be doing an astronaut training program here under Chase. So we're going to focus on spacecraft egress, like here on the right and below as you see some of the Apollo astronauts. We're going to be focusing on Mode 8 egress, which is a shuttle-era astronaut training, which is skydiving. So here we're doing water skydive training. Outside of that, we're going to do smoke and fire response and pressure suit operation. So there are a handful of things that we're looking to offer, not only for the Space Plus 5, but these chances and opportunities are open to everybody here. And so I know that there are some talks in the work of how we can make that possible, but just so you're aware, as we were talking about brass tacks and price points, when we're looking at Project Possum and others at $5,000, $15,000, and so on, we want to give these opportunities to everybody through the university. So whether you're a student, professional, continuing education, and we're going to offer our spaceflight training programs that sooner or later will be FAA qualified with our spacesuits, with our spacecraft egress for about $400 a class. So that's $400 a person. So very similar to a scuba dive training program. Just some other research we're doing here, working on spacesuit skydiving right now with a handful of organizations. This is me testing a spacesuit in a flight tunnel. We're looking at other expeditions and operations. This is a photo taken from an expedition I led last year, a deep sea submarine expedition. We had a team that dove over 50 hours, about half a mile below the surface, discovered a new species of comb jelly, and did a lot of other great work. Well, how is this comparable to space? How can we use this as an analog environment for space for people like you and for students at the university? We also have flight opportunities. I know that Titan is maybe out there and bringing people together around flights to space via balloon. Those are also great opportunities for research. So I would engage you to think about what types of research or art could we do on these balloon flights. And balloon flights right now, everyone, they're probably about 2 years out, $50,000 to $100,000 a seat per person. Last slide I have here for you is just a fixed wing aircraft to near space. We're looking to provide, again, research and art opportunities for people to fly upwards of 100,000 feet via fixed wing, see the curvature of the Earth, the blackness of space, and the thin blue atmosphere around our planet. So get excited about space, get excited about all the opportunities that are out there, because we are living in, I believe, a new golden age. And people are going to look back at this time, this decade, in their old age and think, wow, that was the new Apollo. And we're all sitting here as a part of Space Plus, a part of it. So thank you all for your time. I'm sorry if I just chat your ear off. I get really excited about these things. So I hope it wasn't too bad. But Caroline, I'm going to throw it back to you. And I don't know if we have any time for some questions, but I'm happy to go over if necessary, over time, that is.
Yeah, no, that is brilliant as usual. Personally, like, I feel like I know so much more about you, Trent, than I did an hour ago, and I'm loving everything that you're doing, and of course, everything that you are bringing to our community. We are so excited to have you as part of the Space Plus 5, but also, opening these kinds of opportunities for everyone here. So thank you again, and we appreciate your time. I guess like a question to ask is what are you looking forward to the most when it comes to these astronaut trainings that we will be doing with Space Plus?
Well, yeah. So everyone, I'm. If I had to describe myself like in a sentence, I would say like I am an educator and explorer at heart, and I love getting out there, discovering new things. Even if I have no knowledge of those things previously, just bringing out that inner child, right? Like we're all curious when we're kids, and then somehow when we become adults, like sometimes we lose that. So I'm excited because that childlike wonder is still in me. Like what is going to happen? What are we going to be able to accomplish as the Space Plus 5 or through these astronaut trainings? But then the educator side of me is just also enthralled to get to share these things with people. I gave a presentation at the National Space Society in DC just like 3 weeks ago or so, maybe a little bit longer than that. But just getting to tell people that are in traditional aerospace that say, well, how are you going to, teach people spacesuit operations? Spacesuits are $3 million to $500 million a piece. It's like, well, little do you know, materials costs for spacesuits aren't that much money. The spacesuits that we are using aren't going to be flown to space, but they are more than sufficient to actually teach tangible experiential education to people across industries at a much lower price point. So yeah, we have access to those technologies, and I think into the future we're going to see some private companies stem up around like training opportunities, but I see a lot of synergies at universities because of their research components and their art components. Having everything, all these different departments at your fingertips to bring together. And that's what I think I'm looking forward to with our spaceflight training is when we get everybody here to go through the program, we get to share the excitement of the technology and the accessibility that we have. But now we have resources to sit back and ask questions about, okay, well, what else can we do? How else can we be impactful? And, which department can we go to help us work on that? So, yeah.
That is so phenomenal. Thank you for that. And I guess closing thoughts, what is something that the Space Plus the Space Plus community should walk away with? And like, what is the call to action you want to present to them?
Yeah, good question. I might channel my inner Mike Mongo here. Mike, if you're out there, Space Plus 5, baby. Pow, pow, pow. Solving for space solves for Earth. I truly believe that. When we talk about Earth conservation, when we're talking about our life support systems on this giant rock, it's important that we keep that in mind, right? That all the decisions that we make on our planet are impacting us, but we also have the capabilities to solve a lot of our problems. And it's not just to those people, out there, whoever that proverbial they are. It's us. Like, it's you, it's me. And so I would truly urge everybody here that if you are interested in space, there are an incredible amount of resources out there for you to support you on your space journey and to not only impact the future of humans amongst the stars, but also all of life here on planet Earth. So let's get out there and let's do it together.
Fantastic. Thank you much, Trent. And thank you everyone for joining us. Space Plus project is pioneering IRL access to space through our NFTs and through our metaverse, and that this community is about connection and equal opportunity for all. So thank you again, and we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.